and welcome to this week's YouTube video. Today I thought I'd show you how to paint long fur on animals expressively using this recent cat commission that I've just finished. So let's get into the video and I will speak about what I am doing as I go along. This painting is on paper. This is the brand I use. It doesn't need any additional priming. The thing about painting on paper is that it is more absorbent than painting on canvas board. If you struggle with expressive painting, then perhaps try starting off on paper first. Because of its absorbency, it is very forgiving, so you can slap the paint on and not worry too much about losing control of your painting. I'd also recommend using certain brushes. I prefer using a flat synthetic. I like these ones by Art Master because you can load the paint on in the early stages of the painting. I then switched to my Coma brushes by Rosemary & Co. that are great for wet on wet painting and give the impression of long fur without having to try too hard. You'll notice throughout this painting I am switching between these brushes depending upon whether I want to load the paint on or whether I want to pull it about. A quick word about the colours I am using. These are cadmium yellow, yellow ochre light, transparent yellow oxide, cadmium yellow, alizarin crimson, transparent red oxide, ultramarine deep and titanium zinc white. I've also added burnt umber, but it's not showing in this photo. From that palette I've mixed a few colours I don't have, a red black and a green black. When I mix these two together, that gives me my black. I've also added a purple and two oranges. I've mixed up a couple of greens as well. Remember that red, orange and yellow are my warm colours, blue is a cool colour and green and purple are transitionary colours because they can be both warm and cool. White will also cool down any colour you mix it with, so I'll have to compensate for that when I start mixing these warm colours in the cat's fur. When I paint an object against a background, I always start with the background first. Always paint in a logical order, so background, midground and foreground. If you don't, your object may end up looking like it's behind your background. When painting blue eyes, I always mix some cadmium yellow in somewhere on the iris. Here it's around the rim, where I've also added white to my blue. Shifting temperatures helps create a sense of form. I have a cooler dark blue and then a warmer lighter blue. For the cat's face, I start with my burnt umber as my base colour and then adjust it according to what I see. If the brown is darker, I can add my black. If it is warmer, I can add a number of reds or oranges to my brown. If it is cooler, I have the option of blue or green. As the brown begins to lighten, I have the option of either of my oranges depending on how saturated I want it to be. This orange is more saturated than this one because it carries cadmium red, my most saturated warm on my palette. As the fur transitions to this sort of coffee colour, I add white to my burnt umber, plus this orange, plus yellow ochre light. As the brown becomes cooler, I begin to add some of this black-green to my mix. Notice the transition between warm to warm colours. That transition will give your cat a sense of form. Also notice at this stage there isn't much detail in the face. It is just large blocks of colour and obvious transitions in temperatures. That will be enough to capture the likeness of this cat. If you watch this video back again, you'll see that half of the video is dedicated to me painting the chest and trying to achieve that fluffy effect. If you are trying to tackle a similar animal, the best way to do it is as follows. Number 1, understand how the fur lays. For example, this fur is behind this fur and it continues in this way right up until under the chin. So I have painted it in this way. I've started with the outside areas first and worked my way in. Number 2, block in the area first in thin paint in a sort of scumbling layer. It doesn't matter if the paint is patchy and sketchy. The idea is that it will be easier to judge your colours, temperatures and values if you have something laid down. In this layer, I tend to use my Art Master brushes as I am loading the paint on. I then switch to my Coma brushes when I add thicker paint on the second layer. Number 3, do not use any medium at all. The paint will behave much better without medium. If your white is a bit stiff, just give it a good mix with a palette knife to soften it up. Number 4, start darker and work up to your whitest areas. Don't try to put your white in too soon. Remember, white is an opaque colour with a high tinting strength, and it will pollute all your other colours. So get your darker values sorted first, then your mid values, and then adjust your temperatures. For example, I got these outside areas sorted first, which were darker and warmer and carrying more of a red-brown. I then moved on to these areas here, which were my mid values. They were carrying more purple. I mixed purple plus white into this brown. I then added the same colour that I used here in these side areas, but because I was laying it over wet paint, the colour was more muted than in these areas. If this had not been vibrant enough, I would have needed to overcompensate and added more saturated colour to my mix. Notice also that I'm laying some really dark strokes to give the effect of shadow areas. I'm using transparent yellow oxide mixed with a bit of this black green. I find the transparency of this mix works well against the more opaque layers I've already laid, and it results in the impression of the shadow rather than thick definitive lines. It wipes away very easily due to its transparency. Number 5, finally add your white. At this point, I have quite a bit of paint on that chest area, so it makes it easier for me to add my white quite thickly with my comber brush. There is no hand trickery. The comber brush makes soft painting much easier. And because my paint is wet, I am able to lay the white and then push and pull it around and allow it to mix in part to what's already there. This helps give me a really soft, fluffy effect. Notice how these areas here are carrying some of the transparent yellow plus a little black blue plus white. This area is warmer than my white but cooler than my warm beige. Look at the transition of temperatures I have in that chest area from very warm to cool, to very warm to cool. This transition helps also create my fluffy fur effect. Lastly, I thought I'd just mention those whiskers. If I were painting this on board, I would scratch them out with the back of my paintbrush. This is probably the most effective way to do them. Because I am working on paper, I'm going to have to paint them in. I've used a rigger brush plus some medium, here I've used linseed oil, plus the colour that you see. I then just paint them in with as steady hand as I can. A word of caution, whiskers are rarely ever white. Here they start off a warm dark brown, then transition to a grey, before petering out into a warm light brown. Painting them all white will make them look fake. Paint what you see, not what you think you see. I hope you have enjoyed today's video and found it useful. Please like and subscribe if you can, and check out my website sarahhallidayart.com, where you will find examples of my work and also details of online classes that I run. Thank you for watching and see you for the next one.